South African and Mozambican coastline, he's now arrived in Durban halfway through his trip. 48-year-old Swart aims to raise awareness on threats facing the coastal environment. He started this expedition in Namibia in January last year. Well, Dean is in our Durban studios and we chat to him now. Welcome to the SABC News Desk, Dean, and congrats on making it this far.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Dean, you've crossed about 70 rivers, swimming through 10 of them. It's been quite a feat. How challenging has this trip been this far?
The trip hasn't been without its difficulties. The terrain's rugged. I tend to walk on the beach where I can. So if there are cliffs, I have to climb the cliffs. If there are rocks, I've got to go over the rocks. When I reach rivers that are flowing quite fast, it presents its own difficulties about crossing it. I've got to get my backpack across as well. I tend to use canoes or ferries where they're available, or the road if it's close to the beach. If that's not the case, then I have no other alternative but to swim them.
Dean, you've also been collating a lot of data along the way on the health of our oceans. Now, we understand and we've been reading that there's overfishing, climate change, pollution. They've all severely degraded our seas. What have you found along the way? Are our oceans at crisis point, and have we actually passed the point of no return?
So, about answering the question about whether we've passed the point of no return or not having a solid scientific background, I couldn't really answer that question for you. That's something scientists need to ask. So certainly when I've been walking, the things that I've seen is coming through the diamond coast down on the west coast. The diamond mines are absolutely devastating the foreshore. They're currently building cofferdams into the sea, and then they're mining the seabed there. The destruction that they leave behind is devastating. It takes years and years and years for that to recover. Speaking to diamond miners that actually suck out the diamonds, they say that they can go to an area that's been sucked many years before and see that it's been cleared out. They don't have to clear it out again. So the devastation is left behind. Unfortunately, the mines are not really being held responsible to clean up the mess that they've left. They tend to abdicate their responsibilities and pass them on with the concessions. As you come further down, I've seen a lot of sand mining, and the sand mining is both for minerals and for building sand. And here again, there's not that much control involved in the building sand trade. I understand that if a mine has smaller than 1.5 hectares, that you don't need to do environmental assessment impacts. This means that the local municipalities are left to govern it and police it. What's happening is all the riverbanks are being mined out. They're putting too much silt into the water. These water channels are shallowing out, and the silt is not getting back to the ocean. So it's not replenishing the beaches after the storms strip the beaches. That results in our tides coming in a lot further and starting to destroy the infrastructure on the coast. There's an incredible amount of poaching that's occurring across the coast. Whether it be abalone poaching, crayfish, you name it, the poaching is happening. And we are not doing enough to try and regulate this. There's a fair amount of corruption. There's a fair amount of people that have been caught in the past. Speaking to parliament poachers, they've said that the corruption is rife. They're not even scared about being caught. So we have a huge problem. Our national parks, they're being poached out, snaring in the national parks, fences that are broken. Certainly when I came through the Transkei, there is almost no wildlife left in any of these national parks. And these are huge tourist attractions. People come here to see what we have to offer, and we've got a spectacular coast. So we need to start looking after these things, and we need to start doing more to control it. The plastic devastation on the beaches is huge. I went and researched this, and I actually expected to find a lot of plastic on the beach. What I've seen coming down the coast has been absolutely astounding. It's shocked even me. Whereas I came out onto a section of the beach up near Langebaan. I measured 100 meters along the coast. It wasn't any particular spot along the beach. It was just where I happened to walk out. And I counted 123 bottles. I walk about 20 kilometers a day. So that relates to somewhere around about 8,500 bottles I would have walked past that day. Unfortunately, in our coastal towns, most people are environmentally aware, so they go down and they do beach cleanups. If you come from the interior of the country and you look at the beaches, you think that they're reasonably clean. 5 kilometers down the beach where nobody goes, the beaches are full of plastic again. We have a huge problem, and 80% of the plastic comes from within our borders. From inland, and it can be as far away as Johannesburg. Unfortunately, our councils and municipalities put the waste into open landfill sites. The winds pick it up, they blow it into the streams, streams into the rivers, rivers back into the sea. We're not recycling nearly as much as we should be, and recycling is also a serious problem with recycling plastics. Only 10% of our plastics can be recycled, less than 10% of that is recycled.
Dean,
the problem with a recycled bag.
Yes. Along the way, you've been engaging with a number of communities and schools and so on. How receptive are people to this kind of information around protecting the coastal environment, and are they aware of the devastating long-term effects, pollution and of not recycling that can have on the oceans?
I think there's a lack of understanding certainly amongst the next generation. They're not as aware as they should be. A lot of the things I've said in my talks have shocked people, and they've said that they weren't aware how bad it was. We need to educate the next generation of children to understand what their environment is about. After all, we're only the custodians, and as adults we haven't done a good job. Our grandchildren have the right to demand better of us.
Dean, just before we go, we are running out of time. Now, as part of Operation Pakisa, which will unlock or tries to unlock the potential of our oceans economy, there is a plan being worked out that entails the protection of our oceanic environment and also promoting the socio-economic benefits. What would you like to see in that plan?
I would like to see more liaison between the locals and government. I understand that government has a requirement to uplift the economy and provide jobs for the poorer communities. I also understand that those communities have the right to have access to their coasts and more access to the resources in the sea. Just recently, Kolobene in Transkei, the difference between where the community stands and the government is vast, and I believe that the answer lies somewhere in the middle. It can't go all one way or all the other way. We need to have more discussion, more talk about it, and come to an understanding that's acceptable to both sides.
Dean Swart, thank you for your time. He's of course joining us from our Durban studios. We do wish you well on the rest of your journey. Let's move on now.